but that's okay, I think, because Max has promised that he's going to be really succinct. But it is a fascinating story that you're not going to hear very often. We're talking about imports of meat products, fish products, dairy products, cheese products, whatever you wish, into the UK. But there is a different world out there, and that's for those that transit through the UK. UK as a land bridge, UK, to France to Ireland, for example, is one that does happen. Ireland to the continent is another one. And then there is the specific case of ship supply. And ship supply is really interesting because we've got all these cruise ships calling Southampton every other day in summertime for sure. And these cruise ships are like cities. You've got thousands of people on them, and they all want to eat, and they all want the captain's dinner, and they all want to go shopping, and they all want this and that and this, and ideally do duty free and whatnot. But the cruise ship sails off the UK coast after having called a UK port. So we are then in a situation where Max Geeratz, who's a member of the board of the Dutch Ship Suppliers Association, has to move his products from a warehouse in the Netherlands onto a vessel calling in Southampton. Now, Southampton cruise ship calls maybe an hour, maybe a day, not an hour, a day, and then leaves again. So how is Max going to get his stuff to the cruise ship calling Southampton port? And what's the role of freight agents and freight forwarders? And what concern does Stuart Green have, who's the regulatory affairs manager of Southampton Freight Services? So these guys have put themselves together, and they're going to give you a presentation on what we're going to do transiting food through the UK after the 31st of January. We'll start with Max and then on to Stuart. So Max, the floor is all yours.
Yes, thank you, Arnie. I will start sharing my screen. Looks like this one. Hopefully it's visible and it works for everybody. And then I put it on slide presentation, slideshow. Does it work? Yep. So
just give it a moment. It's nice and it hasn't shown yet, but it will hopefully in a moment.
And otherwise they are in your mailbox, Arnie. Yeah. I sent them at 2 o'clock.
I'll go get them. I'll go get them.
Go get them. In the meantime, I will end the presentation then. Where is my end slideshow? And then go. I'll go to Zoom. Back to Zoom.
Just get going. We are seeing we're seeing your teams now, so maybe you don't want to share us your teams right now. So better go back to the slides, and then I'm gonna open the
Better go back to the slides. This. Okay.
All right, let's go. Awesome.
Okay, stop share. I don't represent the tonnage that Peter Hartwig was doing, and Peter is aiming for the local market. Our market is going in transit through UK, and I will take you through the effects of the target operating model for mixed loads of medium risk classified products traveling in transit. For example, to a ship, could be a cruise ship, could be a cargo ship, could be a Navy ship. The next slide, please. Well, brief introduction. My name is Max Geeratz. I'm based in Holland. I represent the Dutch Ship Supply Association as well as Ocean, the European Ship Supply Association. I work for the company B&S, and we are a big stockist of stocks needed on board of ships. Ship supply in transit means following. We go with from a customs warehouse with a mix of all conceivable foodstuffs, luxury items, spare parts to a ship in a seaport. It's characterized as a sealed truck or container load. It is equated with export because it won't touch the local market, and it's treated as such by the customs. It travels under NCTS and is being receiving a confirmation of exit when the goods go on board of the ship. So the products are meant to be consumed on board of the ship. Well, as per the 31st of Jan, we fall under paragraph 1.4, transit, and paragraph 2.33 says, we are going to introduce a simplified but effective system of biosecurity. And it refers to the section 1.3 for how getting your documents. And it says it's a simplified system, it's in force, and the various meat, fish, lamb, poultry, raw dairy milk products have to be certified. So, okay, I go to the Dutch competent authority on the next slide. And the first, for example, for beef, they say you need to register yourself for the GB, the Great Britain Protocol. Well, it is written on the Dutch page, it's visible for everybody. And if you are a normal exporter, a normal slaughterhouse, experienced with food and certified BRC, IFS, ISO 22000, whatever, food safety, this is really doable for any self-respecting export company. So that's a tick off the box. Okay. Then we come to the next step. On the Dutch website is written, instruction RL246, with 15 pages of instructions how to get your beef certificate. And on these 15 pages is a lot which has to be confirmed. Opposite-wise, EU requires the same from England, I know. But a lot has been required to certify and to prove to your local vet. And that pile of proof might be a pain in the arse. And on the right-hand side, you see the word pre-export certificate. It's what we just discussed with Peter as well. If certain points have to be proved, let's say raw milk coming from Bulgaria or whatever, the areas where a sickness might have been or is still in force, then you need a pre-certificate from that area to get your Dutch certificate. The thing is that if your stock is already in the Netherlands in a warehouse and you want to sell a part of it to UK, then you're too late with your pre-certificate. It should come along with the goods from origin to Holland, and then you can do the next step. Well, this is quite a challenge. I said this is not doable. It's really a burden. For a slaughterhouse, they can certify whatever you want, but for a stockist or a wholesaler, it's a challenge. Next slide, please. Then about the costs. Well, in Holland, every country has its different rates, but in Holland it works out as follows. First, you pay the call-out charges for the vet to come, which is 164 euros. Then every 15 minutes of work, you pay 53 euros. They will only come for at least 1 hour or longer. So if you have 10 different beef items to be certified in your mixed load, it's about 216 euros. You use the e-certification module, you pay fees. And if you say, well, give me a blank print to accompany the goods, you pay 62 euros per certificate. Mind you, beef, lamb, pork, and poultry can be certified by one and the same officer, but for fish, we need a specialist, and for dairy as well. So if you have one mixed truckload with the shopping cart of a ship, which is always a mix of many different items, sometimes up to 100, you need 3 inspectors paying 3 times the call-out charges of 164 euros. Next slide, please. So the lead time, which is important as well. Dairy inspection works a bit slow in the Netherlands. They work with 3 days pre-advice in order to decide whether the officer really needs to come or can do his work from a distance. Prior to lodging the application, you need to assemble all your product information because you have to prove every point what has to be certified in the certificate, and so you have to check it. You do your pre-search if necessary. You assemble the establishment numbers where you got the product from. That is standard. The best before dates, the lot codes, etc. And you have to add up all the net weights because that's really important. People only pay for the net received amount of cheese or beef or fish, whatever. So then you lodge your application. and the clock starts ticking. Meat and fish work a bit quicker. They can do it within 24, 48 hours lead time. As soon as complete, you upload everything in iPaths, and they require several hours before you get the green light as well. Next slide, please. Then we go to BCP in Dover. I hope if I have one beef certificate, one fish certificate, one pork, and one dairy certificate, that the medium risk matrix will not say, okay, that is 4 times 30% chance. Well, for sure you're being selected, and for sure you have to open doors, because if we miss the boat at the agreed date and time of delivery, and like Arnie said, it's usually just 1 day in port, where can we go to? Because return to EU is required that your seal is still intact, that required health certificates are 100% correct and still available, that temperature and condition is maintained throughout the whole voyage, and they prefer a written non-manipulation certificate with a valid reason for refusal. And a commercial reason, like we just missed the boat, is open for discussion. And then, yeah, I cannot sell it locally to Peter Hartwig and his friends. I can only search and find a duty-free or an export destination out of the UK port, which is either the next boat in a month's time or return to the EU. So usually the transporter starts to complain, and and we head for destruction with great speed, unfortunately. So if I summarize the challenges for passing through in transit to a ship, we see a long lead time. We see very complex stipulations in the certificates agreed between UK and DG Sante. High costs, 600 to 900 euros per mixed truck, I estimate. Ships can and do not wait. They pay huge port charges, and the passengers go off. And after 1 day in the city, they want to sail off for the next city. So any hiccups is a potential fatal for me. The risk of non-clearance or confirmation in NCTS, we always have to chase customs. And the return is a serious challenge. So after 4 years of discussion and meetings, and believe me, we have had many with working groups of DEFRA and customs, etc., it's our conclusion that it will be too risky to deliver a mixed truckload of foodstuffs to a ship in UK port. You should just tap the button once slightly. I inserted the small figure, and then we go for the next slide. And then tap once. The effect is that we expect that ship owners will finally decide to reroute the ships in order to make sure that they pass European ports as often as possible, and that they tend to avoid taking supplies in British ports because it's costly and it's risky. And then that's bad for the business, not for my business, but as well for UK business. A remedy I suggest is to really introduce a really simplified and effective system, like BTOM says, but then you need one simple health statement for the complete cargo, because goods are already freely available in the UK market, in the EU market, and are considered as sound and safe here. And they will not touch the local market in the UK, but will be consumed on board of a ship. Or to require not a certificate whatsoever and to pass it as a ship supply in transit code and checked for re-export by your local customs in the port. And that's what I had to say, and I'm still within the 9 minutes.
That's impressive. Thank you very much. And what an insightful presentation, with quite an easy conclusion, I must admit. And that's just the EU part, right? So that's just seeing what you guys have to go through if you're even going to try to consider coming to the UK.
Yeah, I do realize that opposite-wise, UK had to pass the same hiccups and challenges and when they want to export to EU. But yeah, opposite-wise, you see, it works out the same. And it is a really showstopper at this moment, as I see it.
And what I find very interesting is that, you know, you're coming from a different perspective than Peter. Peter is reporting challenges that need to be overcome. You've heard from Rod, who is having more questions than answers. And you, Max, have already concluded what you're gonna what's gonna be the effect and what you're not gonna do anymore in the future, and that's supply vessels calling UK ports.